Hey everyone, I'm Steph,
And I'm Megan.
and welcome to another episode of Late Night Reads.
This week we're diving into the magical world of romantasy, covering Bound by K.A. Riley.
Let's start with why we selected Bound. We are obsessed with the Thrall series. I don't think there's any other word that we could use to describe it.
So obsessed. I guess you could say enthralled.
Ooh, yes, we are enthralled with the Thrall series. We loved the first three books, and we knew we had to read about Shara's sister, Soleia. Plus, we knew that Shara and Thorn were headed on an adventure to find her, so we secretly hoped that we might get to see them again. This book also introduces us to a bigger part of the world outside of Kravan that we've only briefly heard about in previous books, and we were enchanted by the world of Kravan and couldn't wait to learn about the peaks, and this new land does not disappoint. It's also the fourth book in the Thrall series, with the fifth book coming out in a few days, and we cannot wait. Cannot wait.
I can't wait.
We also believe more readers need to know about this series and the phenomenal world building that K.A. Riley has done in it. The series is one of our top reads of the entire year so far.
Now, here are a few things you should know about the author, K.A. Riley. She is a Canadian, and we love to support our friends across the border. What's up, Canada? She's written both adult and young adult books, so keep that in mind when you look at her other books. One that I currently just finished reading was Rekindled. That's a young adult book. It is so good. You have to check it out. But this one is definitely for adults. She is super active on social media, including TikTok, and she does not shy away from sharing her beliefs, so we love an outspoken woman. She has written more than 40 books within the fantasy genre, with all of them being part of various series, so go and check them out.
Before we jump into discussing this book, a couple of key reminders. This episode will contain spoilers. We assume if you're listening, you have read the book. Do not come at us. We're going to talk about it. You've been warned. This book also does contain a lot of topics that may be sensitive for some readers: adoption, assault, blood, bullying, death, emotional abuse, murder, physical abuse, violence. Like I said, it's got a lot.
Yes, it's got a lot. It's got a lot. You've been warned. But now let's talk tropes. So the first trope we have is bad boy. And it's very clear from the beginning that Sebastian Maddox is a quintessential bad boy. He's a siphon, and there are rumors that he killed his sister, but it's already like, what is he hiding? Like, he's this dark, stormy kind of guy, which I personally love. And then you have enemies to lovers. This book is even more about enemies to lovers than Thrall was because, again, he's a siphon and she's a blade, and literally they are just enemies in this world. Siphons have to hunt down blades and kill them. And of course, Soleia ends up having to beat the blade. So we're like, they're sworn enemies according to nature as well as the laws of the land. Next, we have forced proximity. Soleia is a prisoner in his house, or that's the impression he gives her initially when they meet and he puts this tracking bracelet on her. She's forced to live in his home and be Amy's nanny. This forced proximity creates multiple situations where their attraction for each other is super obvious. And you have to wonder if he sometimes leaves the house to get away from the pull he feels towards her, or he's just like, I can't handle it, but he wants to be with her.
And we got forbidden love. As we mentioned, there are multiple reasons why their love is forbidden. He's a siphon, she's a blade. He's also in some type of arranged relationship with Bianca. So, like, no one in the world wants them to be together, but us, and obviously them.
But yeah.
Love triangle. Throughout the majority of the book, he appears to be in this relationship with Bianca, which creates this, like, weird love triangle of sorts. Like, at least in Soleia's mind, we learn he never had feelings for Bianca, but that doesn't negate the element that Soleia feels like she's always competing against the idea of this other woman for his attention and affection, and she'll never win his heart because of it.
Next, we have secrets. And oh my God, Bastian is just full of secrets. And it's like we haven't even learned all of them. He's just like a continuous like tunnel of secrecy. And we're just like, we try and like peel away and we just don't know what's going to happen with him. So who knows what else this guy is hiding under those sexy, sexy eyes of his. And then you have touch her and die. So there is a super big protectiveness that Bastian feels over Soleil. And we see that come to light in multiple situations, like when he kills Oliver because of how he treated her at the end of the book. And then, of course, he destroys the cave. He says he will do anything for her, and we believe it. Next, we have fated mates. Again, they're tethered, so it's kind of a different phrase, but same kind of a trope. So they're tethered mates just like Shara and Thorn, and their bond appears to be super strong. Bastian tries to fight it throughout the entire book, and he ultimately gives in and chooses to be with Soleil.
So now on to every magical twist. There is so much that happens in this book. So as we know from Queen, where we left off, Shara and Soleia's father, the hunter or the shadow, whatever we want to call him, really is a good man and does have the best interest of his, at least his daughters, at heart, which is why he sent her to the peaks for her safety when she was very, very young. I think it was the age of 6. And he expects her to be taken care of by the Hearst family. And he sent them a significant amount of money to ensure that that happened. But that's not what happened at all. She's treated extremely poorly by the Hearst, almost like a parallel to how Shara was treated in her life in the Tower and then by the Verdans. It's kind of interesting to see he wanted her to avoid that fate, yet she kind of has it.
I'm so curious why that family got picked. Like, and also like the caregiver that like took her to them, I was like, what? Why are you leaving her with them? Where are you going? I was so upset.
It made me think of, when children can't fly with like under 12, they get like a little helper that goes with them. That's what it
Yeah.
made me think of. Like she's like the airline helper that like takes you from like your gate to the next gate and then she's like, "Peace out,
Yeah.
bye."
But I read it as like that lady was also going to stay with her. Like she was
Oh,
going to be the caregiver. So I'm like, wait, are you handing off your responsibility? Like that's not cool, man.
that's a good
So I don't know.
question.
I was really upset about that.
Well, the peaks are supposed to be a better land, and where tethers
Suppose.
and normals or powerless are treated equally. That's not the case. We quickly learn that, at least in the Hearst family, Soleia, and any other tether that's a blade is going to be treated differently. So they don't even call her by her name, they call her Lee, and they treat her like a servant. So it gives like kind of, I felt like Cinderella vibes again, a little bit, as we
Yeah.
saw with like Shara and Thrall. And then she's kind of taking it to the next level because she's also suffering physical abuse at the hands of pretty much everyone in the Hearst family. And
Yeah.
while life is bad for her, it's worse for anyone who's a blade. And at this point, she doesn't know what powers that she has as a tethered because they have not come to life yet. But in this world of supposed equality, twice a
Yeah.
year, we have something called the culling, which is where blades are put to death and then they televise it like it's a reality TV show. And
It
people
reminded me
love
of
to
like the
watch it
Hunger
happen,
Games.
right?
Yeah.
But
I was like, what?
like,
Oh
what
my
is
God.
happening? And it also kind of reminded us, like in Queen, we saw like the public executions happen, which were supposedly showcasing justice being served. So it kind of also like felt like it mimicked that a little bit. So the High Council, which is kind of like the government that oversees the peaks, tells citizens that you'll be protected and fed as long as you're law abiding and you're not a blade. So when they televise this culling and they call it the death cast,
Oh my gosh.
it is like reality TV. That's all I could think of because you have like a host. So you have like your Ryan Seacrest who's like hosting the death cast as you watch a live murder and an excited crowd and Bianca's being interviewed and she's like happy to be here and so excited. So you start to learn that like Kravan was a pretty shitty place. But like the peaks might be worse, which is ironic considering like people are supposedly treated as equals there and she was sent there to be safer than she would have been in Kravan. But I think the takeaway I had from like really around like the peaks as a land at this point in the book was that the truth is, and I think you see this in reality today, is that no one is ever treated equally when power is involved.
So true. And they always have to try and find like a common enemy for someone to rally against. And usually it's the people that don't deserve it.
Yes, we are seeing a lot of that today in the world.
Yeah. But this scene like seriously gave me major Hunger Games vibes, especially like Bianca. I imagine her to be like Elizabeth Banks, where she's just like all dolled up and is like, well, what do we have today? Oh, how exciting. And again, like a Ryan Seacrest guy, just like, da 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 da. Let's watch
Yep.
them die. And you're like,
Yay!
oh God,
Like, what the fuck is happening, right?
what the fuck is happening? Yeah. So then you have, so basically, Soleia and Mr. and Mrs. Hurst are watching the death cast, and you can quickly see that Mr. Hurst is super bloodthirsty and has no problem watching a blade die, and he actually would be happy if all of them were killed. And they're like cheering it all on, like, yeah, I hope he dies, and you're like, oh, holy shit. And then like Soleia, she actually feels bad for them who's being killed because she can see the terror in his eyes as it happens. And also she's like a genuinely good person, so she's like, I don't want to see innocent people being murdered. This is wrong. Like, but she can't say anything because she'll get beat up basically. And so she holds her tongue. And so the culling is where we get introduced again to Bianca Graves, who is the daughter of a high-ranking council member. She reminds me of Elizabeth Banks, and she serves as the Vanna White of the culling. She is a beautiful woman, happens to be dating, or at least portrays to be dating, a siphon who is the one that captures the blade. And the camera just so happens to turn a little bit to Sebastian Maddox. And right away, when his eyes meet the camera, Soleia feels like she has a strong reaction to him when he comes into frame. And she said she feels like she knows him. And she swears he's staring into her soul through the TV. And she hears her name being whispered. And that's immediately when I was like, are they tethered? Because it has to be. Like, even though like it's via like a broadcast, like the fact that they're having like a connection at this moment, where, like she's looking at the TV and he's looking through like the lens of the camera, like they're tethered. They've got to be. And he just whispers her name and you're like, oh, damn, what's gonna happen? But again, like, he's supposed to be with Bianca. So you're like,
right. The other thing it made me think of was so like I grew up in the 80s and 90s, right? Like so New Kids on the Block was a huge thing. Then we got like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. And if you've ever been to one of their concerts, like the girls would be like, oh, he looked at me, he noticed me. Like that's what it made me think of, was like, oh my gosh, right? Donnie Wahlberg looked at me.
yes. Justin Timberlake looked at me.
Right?
For me, it was like, Aaron Carter. I loved Aaron Carter.
Ooh, okay.
R.I.P. So sad. So then we also get to see very quickly how poorly Soleia is treated by the Hearsts, because they make her trudge through a bunch of snow to go get a bunch of supplies at a store, only to accuse her then of not getting everything she was supposed to get. And they're like, you forgot this and this and this, and like, here's your punishment. And they throw her down into the cellar, which I guess happens a lot because every single time she has any kind of misstep at all, they just punish her and throw her in there for the hell of it, for shits and giggles on their end.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it's like they're just clearly bad people, and all they wanted was the money. And it's just like, ugh, I hate these people.
No, I do too. So the cellar imprisonment is a little bit different than usual because the Hearsts leave, and she's kind of a little bit like alarmed by that. But if to be more alarmed, someone breaks into the home, and it ends up being a velour who can move really quickly. And he comes into the cellar, and there's like this locked trunk, and he opens it, and it's filled with all this gold. And my first question was like, where did the gold come from? And then I was
like, where did this come from? Hers? How did he know it was there? Yeah.
Yes. So I'm gonna be like, it's not theirs. Like, So, and I was wondering, like, did her father send money? Because I felt like he would have taken care of her. Yeah. Which we learned later is the truth.
Yeah. Like, that's hers. Hands off, buddy. But he had a key.
Yes. Like, he knew what he was doing, where he was going. And all I can think of is eventually she's going to get back to her father. And if the Hearsts are still alive, he is going to burn down the world. And I can't wait for that. So I hope we get that at some point. Anyways, she's really worried as like she's in the cellar trying to hide from this guy that they're going to think she stole the money. Just because they think she does everything wrong. So she tries to...
And they would have totally linked her.
Like, you're locked in the cellar and the money's gone. From a chest that's been down there the entire time that you've never stole from, but you decided to today. Like, just very bizarre. So she goes to stop the velour from taking the chest, which is kind of funny at first when I'm reading it, because I'm like, he's bigger than you. I don't know how that's going to work. And it works because when she touches him, she ends up stealing his power because she happens to be a blade and come into her powers at that time, and she didn't know that. So he's freaked out, rightfully so.
Yeah, he's like, oh my God, what did you just do to me?
Yes. Right. And then she's freaked out because she's like, oh my God, I'm a blade, and now I'm going to be hunted by the siphons. And so then I started questioning, did Sebastian, like, did she feel that pull from him because he knew she was a blade even through like the TV,
What if that like set
right?
everything off?
Maybe, I don't know. Like if he could
Like
sense
the
it before
first
she came into the power.
hmm Or like because when they finally saw each other, because they say when you find your tethered, like your powers are increased. Like that's maybe like what triggered, what
Ooh,
kindled her power in the first place.
that's a very
Ooh.
good point. Ooh, I like this. Okay.
Yeah. But now, yeah,
So
so we find out she's a blade. She
she's a
steals.
blade and she's freaking out. So she
Yeah.
decides to like go and get like her small like belongings that she has because she needs to leave. And we know she's a good person because she doesn't kill the person that she stole the powers from the vor. She lets him go.
Yeah.
So then at
But he's
this
like, I'm
point,
gonna find you. I'm gonna kill
find
you. You're
you,
gonna regret that.
right?
Yeah. You're like, oh.
Oh, great. But then she keeps hearing her name whispered and like, I will find you, which like has to be from Sebastian, you would assume. So her only option is to leave, which she was gonna do when she was 19 anyways. And she thinks she's like really close to that. She can't remember her birthday, which is really sad. So she packs up her stuff, and then while she's snooping around, because she is a lot like Shara, she finds a package addressed to her that opens with her fingerprint. And with that, she finds a note from Shara and a bracelet that Thorn made her. And if she puts it on, it gives her her own like mod, and it'll send Shara a signal. So when she puts the bracelet on, she is freaked out by her mod because she didn't grow up with one of these, right? And can you imagine like one moment you're fine, the next moment there's someone inside your head talking to you? I would be freaked out.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You just be like, oh, why am I taking this thing off now? Like, what in the world? But I mean,
Right.
you're kind of screwed now. You're stuck with it.
Right. And then she also gets like a companion, which can be a bird or sometimes it's a cat or a dog throughout the book. But
Which is really
her mod,
cool. I'm
it
like,
is really
wait,
cool.
I like that.
Like to give her comfort, I think, like on her journey, wherever that is. But
Whatever.
she can, her mod tells her she can name her. So you see kind of like early on them go through a couple of different ideas and they settle on Bella, which is like a good name. But one of the options was Lady Mindfuck, which I really thought should have stuck because
Yeah.
that would have been hilarious for a variety of reasons. And I
Oh
also
yeah.
love that her mod, very different than Shara's mod, who is like a little bit, who's got some sass in her, but she's a little bit more like proper, I would say. She doesn't cuss like a sailor like this mod does, and she also did not want to kill everyone like Bella does. I mean that Bella like every single time she talks to her throughout the book, it's like, "Do you have a knife? You should have brought a knife. How are you going to kill him? Can you grab this rock?" And I'm just like, "Why are we trying to kill everyone?"
Bella is so bloodthirsty. Lady
But
Mindfuck would be best.
Lady Mindfuck, that's why I think Bella seems like so sweet and nice. Lady Mindfuck sounds like she might like mindfuck you and then kill you.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that felt better. But it also makes me wonder because like her kind of like propensity to want to kill people, we see later, right, the talk about like the Sisterhood of Assassins and later at the very end of the book about like her maybe wanting to become an assassin. I wonder if there's some of that that's tied to it,
Yeah, possibly.
but could be reaching.
The assassin thing also reminded me immediately of Aelin.
Mm,
I was
yes.
like, oh yes, Lady Assassins. I love it. But now, using her newly acquired Velar abilities, Soleia gets to the town of Caldwell very, very quickly. She's just running through the snow, felt like she was pretty much skimming across the surface. And now her goal is just to keep herself hidden and find a job so she can get money and try and get back to Kravan or somewhere to try and find her sister. So that's when she sees that there is a notice for a live-in nanny at the Netherfield Manor in a very remote location. So remote, it's not even listed. And let's just say it's not a job that most people would want because of the rumors about the place and its owner, who happens to be Sebastian Maddox and is rumored to have killed his sister. Right away, this gives me very big Jane Eyre vibes, which K.A. Riley even like mentions in her very end of the book, where she's like, "This I was inspired by Jane Eyre," and you know, kind of a little bit like Wuthering Heights in a way. So that reminded me immediately of all of that. So here's Sebastian Maddox, supposedly killed his sister, but like wants somebody to help look after this little girl, his ward. So Soleia decides to make the trek to the manor to apply for the job, and doesn't even know the owner is the same guy she felt the connection with on the TV. She has no idea that it's also the Siphon known for hunting blades like her. So here's when we get their first actual physical run-in. Sebastian happens to be traveling to the manor, and she ends up accidentally getting in the way of his speeding vehicle. Like she turns as like a deer in the headlights and causes him to crash into a ditch. That's not really a great first meeting. Like,
No.
oopsies, you got hurt. And he's not really happy. He's pretty pissed off, and he tries to intimidate her and is like, "What are you doing? Like, get out of my way." And later we find out he was racing home because he knew his tethered mate was on her way to the manor, but he didn't make the connection that it was really going to be her at that moment. And he also didn't know it was going to end up being a blade. So, he's also like bad behavior because his reputation as a siphon is to capture blades. So he's like, what do I do? Like, this is hard. So she runs him off the road, and he, goes with her and like takes her to the house. And he does tell her that he knows who she is and that she'll be hunted by every siphon if she runs. And it's his sworn duty to the High Council to turn her in. But he's like, I could also use an employee, and then makes comments about how attractive she is and how he would love to sample her before she meets her fate. And she obviously is attracted to him because she realizes like, oh my God, that's the guy from the TV. And even when he's trying to be like mean and menacing, she's super focused on his lips, and she's like, what would it be like to kiss him? So it's kind of like she's playing with fire. She's like, it's so pretty. I want to touch it. Oh, but I'm going to get burned if I do. But he tells her that he's not going to try, that she better not try running away, because he's like, I've inhaled your scent and I'll be able to track you. And initially you're like, maybe that's just because he's a siphon. But it's also like a breadcrumb because he smelled her scent as his tethered mate. So it's like 2 and 2. Like, I'll find you because it's what I do, but I'll find you because I want to. But then he puts a tracking bracelet on her, which supposedly claims her as his property and means that no other siphon can grab her. Like, no one else is entitled to her. But you're also kind of like, is that really the case? Or maybe it means something else? I don't know. But I can't imagine that he gives every single blade he meets a bracelet. So
Right?
it's like, why are you giving her this bracelet, buddy?
I feel
But
like it has there's something more to it.
Yeah, there's gotta be. But now she's got like all this jewelry all of a sudden, if you realize. Like she now has like the mod, and she has a bracelet from Shara, and now she has this bracelet from Sebastian. So she's just got like a nice little like thing going on here.
She's like all blinged up.
She's blinged up. Yeah, I'm like, good for you, girl. But also like they come with strings attached. So
They all do. It always does, doesn't it?
We're always tethered to something in some way.
To something or someone. What's also interesting is Sebastian sees the bracelet that she got from Shara, and he knows like who likely built it for her based on his description of it was a powerful cursor who makes those, which we know is Thorn. And then he admits that likely means he knows who her sister is and what she's done in Kravan, which is kind of interesting that, yes, we know he's traveled different places in the world, but the fact that he's able so quickly to pinpoint like who she's related to is really fascinating.
Yeah. And also, like, why don't you give her more information? Like, tell her.
Right.
I don't know. He's just kind of being a jerk at that point.
Because he's a bad boy. And we love it. We love to hate it. We love to hate it to love it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So once we get to the manor, Bastian, as he prefers to be called, tells her, like, don't tell anyone you're a blade. Act like you're only a velour. It's the only power that you had. He also tells her that she's bound to him, which is like another breadcrumb because they're bound as mates, right? Once they decide to accept that connection, even though he doesn't really want her to know that yet. And he's also kind of like bound to her because he's a siphon who has to hunt her. So it's interesting, like one of the things that I started picking up at this point is how many times he says things to her to ascertain if she feels what he feels while he's also trying to push her away. Like he doesn't seem to be the one that wants to admit that there's something there first. So, but
he's very much like playing. Yeah, he's playing chicken with her.
He is very much so.
It's like, do you feel this? Do you feel that? And it's like, just be open in your communication, buddy.
Right. But also,
say what you mean.
But also, like you have to remember, we know he's like in his early 20s. I also feel like that's very representative, like of every man in their early 20s. Yeah, like who just can't communicate their feelings very well. Some men,
very true,
and some women have that problem later in life, as well.
Mm-hmm.
But then we get to meet Miss Whippy, who is the housekeeper, and she's a summoner, so she can bring things. And she's supposed to feed and clothe her and Soleia and make sure she stays locked in her room at night, which immediately causes me to question, why must you be locked in your room at night? What happens during the nighttime? Like
Right.
that. And also, why are we locking people in their rooms? Now, she does get to lock the door. So it's not like the lock is on the outside, which is like
Yeah.
somewhat comforting.
Yeah. So it's to keep you safe from something. And you're like,
But it's
what?
nothing. Don't worry about it. Like it's people, no secrets. So, and then she gets told about Amy, who is a child and she's a fledged, which basically means a tethered who blooms early and is extremely rare. But that's one of the things that's really interesting about this point is they say that she's a fledged because she blooms early. I don't think that's what her powers are, though,
No.
which we can talk more about later. I think that just means that like that comes sooner. I don't know, but she needs to let them know if she sees Amy exhibit any unusual behaviors, which is
like, I'm still trying to figure out like what all she is capable of doing.
Correct. I'm like, wouldn't it have been nice if you suggested like what would be unusual? Like, hey, if you see these types of things, or like, I don't know. Anyways, so
Yeah.
what's fascinating about this is Soleia hasn't even met Amy at this point, but she feels like this really strong connection to protect her with her own life, which she thinks it's because like they're both hiding secrets, right? That she's a blade and that Amy is a fledge. But I think it's more likely related to this invisible connection that Soleia feels towards her because she's tethered to Bastian and it doesn't realize it yet. And we learn later that, Bastian is her uncle.
So she's no aunt.
She's right. Exactly. Even though she doesn't know all this at this point. So I think that's kind of like what makes a little bit more sense of like her kind of like innate protectiveness towards Amy. So even though I think Soleia for a long part of the book thinks that Bastian is Amy's father, like it never dawns on her until she's told that it's his niece.
I had a feeling it was his niece though.
I did too.
I was just like, it's not. I'm like, I don't think it's your kid. You would have been a lot more open about it. But yeah, it's like your sister is dead. And like suddenly you have this little girl. I'm like, no, that's your niece.
Right.
For sure. But then we're going to talk about how sweet Amy seems when Soleia meets her. She's like a breath of fresh air and sunshine compared to the Manor and Bastian. Which honestly, again, reminds me so much of Jane Eyre. Like Mr. Rochester is like a major dickhead. And like Jane Eyre is just like, I'm just trying to help out. And like the kids are great. And so, basically she's just like, Amy's a sweetheart. I don't know how you got stuck with this grumpy guy. But then they're playing outside and Amy tells her about the ghosts that she sometimes hears at night and how Mrs. Whitby says they're just, a servant with nightmares, which is, again, another little breadcrumb about what's really going on. And then she takes Soleia to the magic garden, which reminds me of the secret garden.
Same.
Which I love. I love that story. And she says she created it for Bastian, which makes it feel like springtime, even though the peaks are constantly experiencing winter. So that's what we can tell one of Amy's powers is she can kind of like make elements come to life. So she can keep out the cold. She can keep, summer and spring contained in this one special little secret garden or magic garden, as she calls it. And then Bastian comes home that night and he tries to get under Soleia's skin by mentioning Bianca and how like not many people could resist her. And he's also holding on to her wrist while he's telling her this. And he's like definitely trying to get a rise out of her to find out like if she feels the same way. And then he tells her that Bianca and others will soon be coming to the manor and that she will have to be present for it, even though she'd really rather not be. And he tells her that he wasn't with Bianca and that instead he's ensuring her that no pictures of Soleia were in Caldwell because he's like, I'm trying to protect you. So no one is going to know it was you who was here because obviously the Hearsts now are like, this, child of ours is like missing and, we think she's a blade and all this stuff. And basically he's like, don't worry, no one's trying to find you. And it doesn't matter anyway because you're mine. Like you are my possession. I own you. She's like, okay, I don't know how I should feel about this. Am I excited to be protected or am I like nervous because you're putting me in danger. A little bit of both. And then, yeah, he mentions how he brings her into his home because she stirred his mind and soul. And I'm just like, okay, that reminds me again of Pride and Prejudice now, where he's like, you have like bewitched me, body and soul. And you're like, okay, Mr. Darcy. Okay, let's see you. But Bastian's just like, there's something about you that I need to decipher. I need to figure this out. I'm not sure what's going on with you. You're a mystery. But there's some serious mind fucking going on here. And we don't know the truth yet about how they're tethered mates. And Bastian is trying to fight his feelings for her. Reminds you a lot how Thorn was in Thrall, except Bastian's mind fucking is much stronger because he's clearly been through a lot and he's just like, I'm not letting anything up easily. So you're like, okay, I guess I'm along for this ride. Now it's nighttime. And Soleia learns why she needs to be locked up in her room. But just like her sister, she's a rule breaker and doesn't listen and wants to find out what's going on. She hears a noise. She sneaks out of her room, ends up seeing a crazy woman with violet eyes who chases after her and tries to like attack her. But again, Soleia has a Velar skill, so she can run away really fast. She's able to get to her room quickly before she's attacked. And even though she's like holding onto the door, the doorknob starts to kind of burn, like really, really hot out of nowhere. And so she like lets it go and she's like, oh my God, what just happened? But what's weird about this encounter is that Bella, her mod, doesn't even seem to recognize that it happened. So now Soleil is like, did I imagine it? Like, is this real? Like, I don't know. And then suddenly Bastian shows up at her door and seems really worried about her and tells her, oh no, don't, it was a servant who has nightmares and she sleepwalks. And it's like, right away, I had a feeling also, I'm like, I think that's the sister. I think he didn't really kill her. I was like, oh, yep, I know what's going on here. Like, she's the hidden crazy lady.
Yes.
Which again is very Jane Eyre as well. So I'm like, there's a lot of similarities.
It also gave me some Home Alone vibes when like the door handle got hot.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he burns his hand on. I was just like, But I'm also like,
even then I thought like that's got to be Amy's mom, because knowing that Amy can manipulate the elements, like make things hot. It's like, what if she got that trait from her mother?
Exactly.
Who's now doing this? Yeah,
I know. So
fashion fun breadcrumbs.
It's just fun breadcrumbs. More than I think we got in Thrall, even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Bastian tells her to go on a ride tomorrow, even though she's really never went on a horse ride. And everything he does seems to have a purpose, right? So he confirms that blades live in the mountains and that female blades are extremely rare. And he introduces the concept of the sisterhood, which is an assassin's guild of female blades that work all over the world, including Kravan. And he tells her also that 12 blades weren't killed in the culling this year. Like, that was just to make the High Council look powerful. Only one was killed, which is the only the one that you saw actually on TV. But they had alluded to that like 11 were previously killed before that. Which then makes me question everything the High Council has been saying and what other lies about the peaks they've been keeping. Yes. So it's just, that's like the start of, I think, tearing down what you've been told about the peaks so far. Because what's interesting about this kind of like part of the series is with Kravan, we got like the 7 rules of Kravan on like page 1. We have not gotten that about the peaks in this land. So.
Very different.
Very different. So the next morning, he gives her clothes for a ride and tells her the High Council has gotten news that a female blade is on the loose. Her name is Lee Hurst, and she has red hair. And he says one of my favorite lines of this book. I've known you for less than 48 hours, yet the thought of another man taking possession of you makes me homicidal. I would cut a throat for less. So bad boy, right? And just, So I mean, like, you shouldn't swoon over that, but like 1,000% I totally did. Because I was just like, that's hot.
Yeah. And then he's like, tell the stable guy you're there for a ride. And I'm like, oh, she's there for a ride.
Ride, but not on a horse.
She's not on a horse. Save a horse, ride a cowboy.
Right? Save a horse, ride a siphon.
Ooh, I like that. That's fun. Save a horse, ride a siphon.
Right?
That's good.
Even further heats up because he barely touches her. Like, he like brushes his hand on her, which reminds me very much of like Thorn when he barely brushed his fingers against Shara, like where she almost imagined it in the first book. And so Leah feels this like hot pleasure run through her body. And then he's like, fuck. And I'm like, oh, you feel it too. It's real. And then he just leaves.
Yes. I know. I was like, why? Why did you walk away? Why did you find out what I was? Oh, I was also like, fuck, don't walk away.
Right? Don't walk away. So that's like the start of this like incredible sexual tension that builds. And like this enemies to lovers trope that you like know is going to happen. So Soleia goes on a ride. And I love that she like pretended that she will later, that she pretended that she knew how to ride a horse, so like the stable guy wouldn't go with her.
Yeah.
But her horse gets spooked and she has to jump off. And she runs into a woman in the mountains who's not happy to see her, which then causes like Soleia to use her velour skills and take off running down the mountain. So she decides... I mean,
it's terrifying. You see this woman with a hatchet who's just like, who are you?
Who are you? And she assumes that she's like a wealthy woman because of how she's dressed and that she's on a horse. But everything was very intentional. So then, because why not? We almost got killed by a woman with a hatchet. Why not go in the forbidden section of the manor? Like a la Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, so seriously.
She goes up there and Bastian finds her. He's furious. He reiterates that the woman she heard is nothing more than a maid. He's trying to calm her down. Like, that's what he was doing, right? Calm her down, which, like, Soleia doesn't believe and questions, like, if he'll calm her down the same way as that servant. And I'm like, I don't know. How's he calming down the servant? You might like to be calmed down that way.
Yes, please.
We don't know. Yes, please, right? Because my mind immediately went to the gutter.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Like, she's tied to the bed. I
was like, is this like a red room? Like, what are we getting here?
We get a blue room.
We do get a blue room later.
Yeah.
So that's when Bastian tells her about now I'm going to screw this up.
Obsidian
sky. I had just said it in my head and I was like, oh God.
That's okay. I'm stumbling over saying Soleia's name all the time. I'm like, Soleia, Solala, la 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 la.
That's probably why they called her Lee, because it was easier.
I get it. Obsidian
sky, which is identified by a ring of 2 crossed daggers over a mountain, which is something that she says, oh, the guy that broke into the Hearst home, I saw him wearing one of those. And he tells her he kind of sent her up on the mountain on the horse ride because he wanted them to see her and know what she was in case she ever needed protection in the future. Because I guess they can sense like another blade. He also shares that he got the manor from the High Council after passing an impossible test that involved his sister. And one of them had to die and it wasn't going to be him. So what's really fascinating at this point is he never tells Soleia that he killed his sister. He's very careful with his word choices throughout the book. It's like similar to the times she'll ask him like why he hasn't turned her in yet. And he'll say like, do you really not know?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
No, she doesn't know because she thinks you're mind fucking her.
Yeah. It's like crossed wires. You need to have open communication.
Right?
It's like, do you
or
really
at least
not
be
know?
Like, no, I don't know. I don't know because you're pretending to be in love with Bianca. So no, I don't know. Yeah. So, and I get it. Like he's trying to figure out if she feels this bond, right? Because I think there's part of him probably that wants to make sure like it's real. Because I don't think he expected to feel anything like this, especially not again for someone who's like the opposite of what he should want because he's a siphon and she's a blade. Anyways, he agrees to train her, which creates like these super hot and frustrating scenes we'll talk about later. I got very much like Xaden Violet on the mat vibes, which I was like super here for, except like he attacks her like when she's not. Xaden and Violet, like I feel like happens like in a very intentional way. This happens like when you're not thinking about it. He's got like a knife to your throat, which I also was here for.
I know. He just like pops out of nowhere and he's like, surprise! And like, I'm going to tie you up. And I'm like, oh, wait, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, please do. I don't want to get loose from this. What are you talking about?
No. And she even said, she's like, why would I fight? I want you. And it's like, see?
See?
We'll get to that, though. We'll get to that. So then more drama happens in the nighttime when Soleia, I can't say it again. When Soleia hears footsteps outside of her room, and then she sees smoke suddenly coming from Bastian's room. So she leaves, and she enters his room, and she suddenly sees this circle of ice blue flame all around his bed. So it's like not hot, it's cold, but she works to try and put it out like she would a normal fire because that's what Bella tells her to do. And when she does do that, Bastian wakes up and he's like, I owe you everything now. Like, he starts calling her Sunshine because calling her Sorceress before didn't seem like the best nickname. And so he's like, you're my sunshine. And I'm like, you're so cute.
Right?
But he seems surprised that she didn't let him die so that she could just like run away and be free. And she tells him that she basically wouldn't even know what to do without him. She's like, I don't know where I would go, and like I'm safest with you. And he tries to get her to confess like what he means to her, but she won't tell him, even though she realizes how devastated she would be if something happened to him, even though like he's technically like engaged to Bianca. It's like a whole like love triangle situation, you know? She's like, who's gonna admit it first? Who's gonna admit that you feel loved and attention towards this person? Like they're playing chicken with each other. Nobody's gonna do it. But we realize later that the ice flames came from his sister, who again is the crazy lady who's walking down the hallways and is locked up and is supposed to be dead. But he doesn't reveal that just yet. Again, it's just like, somebody did this. I don't know who, but thanks for saving my life. And I owe you now. So the next morning, Bastian takes Soleia on a hike. And it's not to kill her, kind of like Bella seems to think. And she's like, take your knife. But during their hike, he gets her to tell him a secret that no one knows. And she shares how her adoptive brother, Oliver, used to physically hurt her almost every single night. And how close to his 19th birthday, he threatened to hurt her sexually, which makes Bastian super pissed off. And he tells her how he would basically kill Oliver and the rest of the Hearst family for how they treated her. Which you're like, yes, you should, because they're terrible people. And he says, you know, Amy is the best thing that ever happened to me, and you are the second best. Which is really confusing to her, because she's like, don't you mean Bianca? Like, isn't she the second best? And she really pushes him on it. And he doesn't lie, but he says that you'll see for yourself when Bianca comes to visit. And I don't think he lies to her about their relationship through the entire book. He's just really careful again with his words. He's just like, you'll see, like, she really means nothing to me. But he's very secret with his words. Again, keeping all these secrets all the time.
Yes.
And then the real reason they go on this hike is so that he can show her the entrance to the Obsidian Sky Cave, just in case she ever needs to go there for protection, because they'll protect her since she's a blade. And again, she's like, what? Why would I need protection? Like, you're like, he's omitting so many different factors that she's going to need to know. But of course, like, it's all leading up to like, maybe you'll have to do this, maybe you won't, but in case, like, this is where you need to go. And that's also where we see Soleil start to stand up for herself and the mind fucking that Bastian continues to do to her, especially around how she would feel if he and Bianca were to actually bond. She calls him out on it and how he toys with her and plays with her emotions like a cat with a mouse. And he continues to play with her by like pinning her down and telling her like, free yourself. And she's like, but I can feel your heart up against me. Like, why would I free myself from that? But he makes it clear his desires for her, and he's expected to promise himself to Bianca, but he asks her to put him out of his misery. And he's like, I just want to taste you. Yeah, like, do it.
Same.
Do it. Same. He's just like, I want to taste you since that first night, and I can't promise to resist this desire. And again, you're just like back and forth, like, are they going to finally do it or not? Like, there's a sexual tension. I'm feeling tense reading this. Like, we all need release from this thing right now. And it's just like,
Well, it's a little bit like Thorn and Shara and Devra. Where like Shara thinks there's something going on with Devra throughout the book when there's really not. So lots of like similarities. So the mind fucking and quasi grinding on each other, because that's how I envisioned it in this point, right? Yeah. Comes like can't really go further, not because they don't want it to, but because there's a man on the mountain who ends up shooting an arrow at Bastian, who then apparently can catch said arrow with hands and send it back and shoot it into the guy's shoulder with his arm. So super
that's
hot. Also, I'm like,
super hot.
What? I thought you were a siphon.
Yeah.
Like what?
How can he do all these things? He has so many extra powers.
He does. That's what I think.
What if he is actually a blade and he stole siphon powers? Dun dun
Oh
dun.
God, that would be huge. Okay.
Who
Because we
knows?
know his sister's a blade.
What if they're twins and they're both blades?
He's hiding something. There's something going on there. Because he
Yeah,
does
it's
say
like,
a
how do
lot
you have
about
more
like,
than that?
well, and he makes a comment about like not collecting too much power. I don't know. Okay.
Which we know his sister did,
We know his sister did.
but did he also?
Maybe.
Hmm.
So we head back to the manor, which one thing it's called Netherfield, which reminds me of the Nethers. Just want to point that out.
Well, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Find me in the nether.
Right?
Neither. Nether, neither.
Neither.
At the manor.
Find me at the manor.
Yeah.
But so they go back to the manor, and then Bastian's like gone for like 4 days, which is it's like hot cold with him, right? Like they get these like hot moments, and then he like disappears. And then she's greeted by him with a knife at her throat and a lesson that she should never walk into a room without scanning it for threats. Great.
Too serious, dude. Great.
Right?
Cool.
Great. Cool. But that training session ends up with Bastian on top of her on her bed. So I'm here for that. And then like she's wearing like a cami and the strap breaks. So then he like sees her boobs and proceeds to
And
tell
he's
her
just like
well, then he's like, what
he's
exactly?
like a 12-year-old boy seeing a boob for the first time. He's like, oh my God.
I know, but then he's like super hot when he's like, let me tell you what I would do to you if I wasn't promised to someone else. And I'm like, yes, do that.
But do it.
Then he doesn't, because he's like, I'm just gonna take care of this later in my room. And so like when I masturbate, it'll be your name on my lips. And I'm like, oh my God, why?
Just slaps him though.
Right? Which he deserves.
Yeah.
He deserves a slap for that, for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But then we get to see Amy, and Amy having one of these spells. And it's a little bit creepy. It almost is like she's kind of possessed. And she talks about how she won't let the High Council killings continue and how she's going to end them all. Which is just like, I would have freaked the fuck out if I was Soleia and I'm watching this like small child act
Oh my God.
possessed and say I'm going to end the
like
world.
The Exorcist.
Yes.
Ugh.
And then she like collapses and needs to sleep it off and is like totally fine. And Miss Whippy is just like, oh, that's just one of her typical spells. No, that shit was creepy. Like there is more to Amy's powers than we know at this point in the book. I don't even think we know by the end of the book. I don't even think Bastian really knows what all this girl is capable of. But
not gonna lie, if I was Soleil at this point, I'm like, there's a creepy ass woman haunting the hallways with violet eyes and trying to kill me, and now this child is like literally has a demon inside of her, it seems like. I would hightail it out of there. Like, I know Bastian's hot and all, but I'd be like, I don't know, man. This might be a bit much for me. I might have to see you later.
I don't know if the sex is going to be worth it.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
There are a lot of red flags.
Yeah.
There are a lot of red flags.
Yeah.
But training continues, and basically he just like ambushes her every single day. But she's starting to learn how to better defend herself, which is very much needed. She has really no survival skills until he teaches her. But
unlike Shara, Shara, who had a lot of survival skills, like
because they basically
anyway.
trained right almost every day. It seems like in the tower.
Yeah.
But all these training sessions do, besides obviously teaching her how to protect herself, is continue to intensify the sexual tension between the two of them. And he continues to also intensify it by telling her how much desire he feels for her. So it's kind of like, I'm like, why is the mind fucking continuing? Like, do you like me? Do you not like me? Why do you tell me that you want me sexually, but you're going to be with someone else? Like, it's definitely a cat and mouse game is what it feels like. And if you're Soleia and you've never really been, I know she had like this one boyfriend that they did something in a barn, the hearse caught her in. But I'm like, you've never been in a relationship. You've never seen a healthy relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like even Mr. and Mrs. Hearst didn't have a healthy relationship.
No. I'm just like, this is not also what a healthy relationship looks like either. So it's a lot for her to take in. And she's only like, what, 18, 19?
Yeah, well, I think she had just turned 19 because remember she forgot her birthday, but like the powers arrived on her 19th birthday. So like she is 19, supposedly.
Isn't that late though? Because didn't most of like in the tower, didn't their powers arrive sooner? Because they all got out on the night when they were 19 on placement day, roughly, right?
Yeah. So maybe it's late. Yeah. But she's around 19. Um, but then it's time now for the guests to arrive. So all the like the council and Bianca, fun time about to happen. Bastian suggests that she gets to know one of these men, David, because he knows things that might help her in the future and that he's on the lookout for a spouse. So I'm like, okay, you're trying to like marry her off now? Like what what the hell? And it literally brings tears to her eyes that he would try to marry her off to someone else. And she tells him that she'd rather be on the run than end up with another man. But she stops herself before she says to him, like, although he seems to know what she's going to say, but she's just like, what do you mean, dude? Like, what? Why would you do this to me? I think he's testing her, he's just like, he's not sure. So Soleia meets David. He tells her about the 10 minutes in the blue room, which sounds like 7 minutes in heaven, but it's adult style. And basically, you two random people get to have sex in a room, and you don't know who the other person is because everybody wears a wig, a mask, and the same clothes, and you're not allowed to talk. And then you get to choose somebody to go into the room with. Like you have like a deck of cards, and whoever has the highest gets to choose somebody else to go into the blue room. And that's when we learn that Bianca and Bastian haven't really slept together because he's supposedly saving himself for their bonding night. And Bianca apparently has the same necklace that he gave to Soleil. It's just, there's a little different color. Like, one of them has a little green, like, dot in the middle, and one of them has a little blue one. So he's like, don't take this off. I need to know who you are.
I was so pissed off.
But it's also like, yeah, what the fuck? Like,
right?
She's really mad. Like, why would you give her a necklace? Why would you give me the same one? Like, this doesn't stop. Like,
Well, it felt like, it feels like those stories you read about like men who are married, have mistresses, and buy the same jewelry for like their wife and their mistress. I was like, oh, you motherfucker, I hate you.
Yeah, right?
So furious.
Yeah. So she's like really mad, goes back to her room, only to have Bastian stop her, and he's very, very careful with his word choices here. And he's like, I never admits to caring for Bianca, even though she doesn't realize it, because she thinks he does, clearly. And she calls him out on giving her the same necklace. And he's like, I know, but you should wear it tomorrow night, no matter what. Please don't take it off. And she asks him, like, why are you forcing me to do this? Like, why do I have to do these events? Like, it's hard for me. And he just pushes up on her and tells him, like, it's difficult for him. But they're interrupted by Bianca and David. And it's at this point that Soleia questions if Bastian even cares at all about her. And again, this is very much like Shara and Thorn at the beginning of that book, where it's just like, what am I doing here? Like, why do you keep playing these games with me? Like, do you actually like me? Do you not actually like me? Like, who knows? And all I know is that you gave me some jewelry and now this girl has jewelry too. And it's like, okay, cool.
So next morning comes and she learns that David isn't a council member, but he's actually another siphon who's there to help Bastian with his plans for the future, which is like another breadcrumb, right? And he suggests that they act like they're into each other to give Bastian a taste of his own medicine, which I was like, hell yes, that man deserves it.
As
right? And
yes.
As you should, right? So then she puts her hand on like David's thigh, and Bastian, like across the room, looks like he's like gonna eat glass. He's so furious. So then David's like, let's go to the blue room together tonight, right? And like that'll really cause him to lose his shit. Because I think David knows the point that like they're mates and they're tethered together. And she goes and tells her, like, you'll know me. I have a scratch on my shoe. Like, look for that. And you'll have nothing to worry about because, like, I'm a gentleman. Like, I'm not going to do anything. But, like, this will teach Bastian a lesson. I'm like, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Then we get possessive Bastian, who confronts her and was like, what the fuck was that all about? And she was like, I'm a fucking person. Like, I'm not your property. Like, what do you mean? Also, didn't you want me to get close to him? Like, what? What?
This was your plan. You told me
this was your plan.
To do this.
I'm doing your plan. And now you're pissed.
Yeah.
And he responds, if I had one wish, it would be that you would want to be here with me. Which, like, asshole, she does. But you keep mind fucking her and confusing the shit out of her So she thinks you don't like
Gaslighting
her.
her like crazy.
Gaslighting her.
Yeah.
Like, it's oh. But
Ugh.
then he like goes into like, I would say like major asshole territory, because he tells her, I'm gonna take Bianca into the blue room tonight because she's perfect for him, like poison and silk. And then like the next second he's like, do you want me? And she was like, yes. You
Yeah, of
torture
course
me
I do.
daily. Like every single day you're torturing me because you're something I'll never have. And like it bothers her to see him with Bianca. And then he tells her he'll be looking for her tonight. And I'm like, excuse me, what? Like, are you the best mindfucker of all time? Because you went from, why are your hands on another man that I told you to put your hands on, to, I'm going to take Bianca to the blue room tonight and do God knows what with her, to, do you like me? Do you want me? I will look for you tonight. And I'm like, what?
Again, we need like a chart here to be like, okay, so when I act this way, you act that way. You say this, I'm supposed to do that. But when I do this, you get mad about this. And you're like,
But then, like, there's this part of me, right? Like, when and we'll talk about this in a second, but like, when we find out what happens, like, I feel like this is all part of his plan. Like, I think he is like playing
mm-hmm.
chess. So then it's
All
time
right.
for the games to begin. And Soleia ends up in the blue room with David, or who she thought was him because of the scratch on his shoe, until he starts getting really, really handsy. Because it's not him, it's Bastian, who plotted to get her into the room all along, which is why he gave her the similar necklace to Bianca. So the similarity would help him make an excuse to Bianca later, and he can say nothing happened in the room between the two of them. So, which is like, okay, that makes sense. It also is why I think why it makes sense, because I don't think she would have went into the blue room with Bastian willingly. Like, if she knew it was him, she wouldn't have tried to cause drama. And I think that he used David and the whole shoe situation, like, set all of that up to give them this opportunity.
David was like the scapegoat
Yes.
for trying to get her in the room. So he was in on it, but it was just
He was
like,
in on all of it.
come on,
It was
guys.
hilarious, right?
It was a pretty good joke.
It was a pretty good joke. Then they're kissing and he's touching her and it's super, super hot. And we're left wanting more, like they were. And we'll get to that details later. But it's also like really heartbreaking for Soleia, because while she can feel like, she feels like tethered to him, like she feels like this really strong connection. And he says things that make her feel like he desires her physically, but not emotionally. Like it starts to feel like a game. And like that's like one of the worst feelings in the entire world, when you feel like used by someone that you care about. But then so like she just feels like after this, like this was all a big game to him. He's just trying to use me physically. And then he comes to the room later to apologize and says that she can't leave him, otherwise he'll fray and wither. And that he's never kissed Bianca, and Bianca isn't what he wants. And so it's like,
You're just like,
what? It's like that's what I said, roller coaster of like hope and despair.
Yeah.
And so she feels this like incredibly strong connection to him, but then he keeps hurting her over and over again because he's trying to protect her and himself.
It's like a full on, like she goes from one like physically abusive, relationship, but not like relationship, like physically abusive environment with the Hearst family and with Oliver Hearst. And now she's going to an emotionally abusive relationship with Bastian. Like that's what it is. Like he's like gaslighting her all the time and like physically being intimate and then holding back intimacy. And it's not fair for her. But again, like she's trying to figure all this out as she goes. And the drama really heats up again later that night when Bastian needs her help because there's an intruder who happens to be Oliver. And he was sent by the High Council. And he doesn't even know that she's there. He's like, what are you doing here? Like, oh my gosh. Like, and Bastian kills him once he realizes who he is. And it's crazy the way that he does it. So he realizes, like, you're the guy who hurt Soleia for all those years. And he gets the help from this blade named Selic to then later help him destroy the evidence of Oliver's body. But the way he kills him is very interesting. So,
Yes.
like, you don't expect it. He like literally starts making all of his organs starting to like die on the inside and like truly wither away from the inside out until he's just like a husk of a human. And then
which gave me two vibes.
Oh, yeah.
One, it gave me The Mummy, right?
Yes.
The movie with Brendan Fraser gave me that vibe. Then it also gave me a From Blood and Ash vibe.
Yep,
right?
for sure. And he just like becomes like ash. He's just like completely drained, like literally turns into ash and just like whoosh, bye. Like Selleck helps destroy the evidence. He's not even there. He doesn't exist anymore. And you're like, okay, like I'm glad that he's gone because he was a terrible person. So yay. But you're just like, there's so more secrets now. And like Bastian asks him to tell the others that she's there, in terms of like to tell the other blades, basically, that she's there. And don't hurt her if she comes asking for help. And that blade's like, all right, man, like I'll do you a solid, but like I'm not
But
supposed to be
also,
here.
and I also hate you. Like, it's interesting because, right, like, they like the Blades don't seem to really like Sebastian, but they also have this kind of like weird parasitic relationship between the two. Like, he needs them, they need him.
Yeah. Which again makes me think, what if Sebastian is actually a blade, but like he stole the siphon ability and that's what keeps him safe? Like it would make a lot of sense. Or maybe he really is just a siphon. I don't know. But he just has a lot more into him, like a lot more going on than like he's letting everybody know. So he's again like trying to set up this whole like scenario where she gets to be safe if he's not there, and it's very confusing. But now she's got like these people looking out for her, other blades, like this entire world basically. But the next morning, Bastian leaves with Bianca and the others for a few days, which is really hard on her because she learns from Mrs. Whitby that he wants one of the larger bedrooms prepared for the new mistress of the house, with both of them, assuming that he means Bianca. And this causes Soleia to believe she'll probably need to find a new place to live, even though Mrs. Whitby says that Amy would miss her and you'd be safer at the manor and nothing's going to change. But Soleia's like, no, when he gets married, like things are going to change. And then a package arrives for Soleil from her sister, asking her to meet her in Caldwell. And at first, honestly, I was like, is this a trap? Like, how do you know? Like, we know the second that she put on her mod unit, it sent, like, Bella sent a signal to Maud. And it's like, okay, so did you actually find me now? Or is this a trap? I don't know. Could be a trap. Because, like, this is the first communication she's really had from her sister other than the letter. Saying, like, hey, we're kind of in the area. We'll try and find you. Hopefully you find you. And, but it's just like, how did that letter get to her? I don't know. Bella, Lady Mindfuck, has a way of doing things, I guess.
Yeah.
But honestly, K.A. Riley now has us trusting no one in the series because we just can't believe anything that we initially think we believe. So I think you thought that like now Shara was a morph or something, posing as Shara.
Okay, so K.A. Riley has like mind fucked me so much to trust like no one and nothing throughout this entire series. Because like sometimes her twists and turns come out of like left field. And so I'm like convinced at this point when I'm reading it that number one, this is not really Shara. This is some sort of wicked trap. And when she does go to meet Shara, it's going to be because we know that morphs are a real thing. It's going to be a morph that looks like Shara, that has morphed into Shara. And this is what I'm 1,000% convinced of at this point in the book, that this can't be Shara.
But Soleia doesn't know what Shara looks like.
That's true.
It wouldn't matter if it was a morph because she doesn't know what she looks like. But also, that could be true.
Right? And at some point, I'm like, even question if this is true. I don't know.
K.A. Riley has me questioning reality in all sense. I'm like, I don't even know. What's my reality today? Like, where am I? I don't even know.
I'm just like, there's something going on. This seems too good to be true.
Yeah.
Whenever it's too good to be true.
Yeah, but it really is Shara. It really is Shara. And she finds Soleil and like they're happy to meet each other finally for the first time in their lives. We're really sad though because Thorne isn't there. Because they had split up to like search more land faster. So it's just Shara and she's like, I'm ready to leave with you. Like, let's go. But she can tell there's something that's keeping Soleil there. And at first, Soleil, I still can't say her name all this time. Soleil. Is that it? Soleia? Lee. No, I'm not calling it that. But basically she says it's Amy. because she's like, this little girl I've been taking care of, like I can't leave her behind. But Shara's like, no, there's something else going on here. There's someone I think you love. And that's when she realizes, yeah, I do love Bastian. Like, oh my God, I do love him. And then Bella and Maud start to spill the beans and tell Shara everything. And basically learns everything that there is to know now about Soleil and Bastian. And Shara tells her, it sounds like this is a lot how I got together with Thorn. And how like we were in close proximity with each other, and I hated him, but I also loved him. And then like we became like bound mates, and we were, tend to attract to one another pretty intense ways, and like things explode very quickly. And Soleil explains how like, no, this is wrong, like he's gonna bond with Bianca. And Shara doesn't believe it. She's like, no, because if he was gonna bond with her, he would have done it right away, and he wouldn't be able to keep his hands off of you. Like, you don't do that. When you're bonded with someone, you don't touch somebody else. Like, and so she explains what it's like to have a mate and the connected string between the two of you that would literally feel like it would kill you if it snapped. And that's exactly how Soleil admits that she would feel if she left Bastian. So she's like, I guess I do love him. I can't leave him behind. I'm tethered.
So after catching up with Shara, Soleil has to race back to the inn because they went out in town to get some food because she's being followed. And then she gets to her room and she ends up being attacked by Bastian again, right?
Popping out of nowhere.
Popping out of nowhere, attacking people. But she gets out of his grasp and she like kind of is able to do that very quickly.
Good for you,
and
girl.
So, right? Good for her. So that training is paying off. But it turns out he's there because Miss Whitby sent him a message saying that Soleil had a family emergency and he was worried about her and like that she might do something stupid. And then we get this like dance of words between the two of them, right? It's almost like a tango of words. Bastian is telling her like how he feels, and she assumes it's about Bianca because he's like, I love this woman so much it hurts. I can't possibly tell you, Soleil, how much I'm looking forward to fucking her at long last. And he says like, which is like a hotline. He's like, you really think that's what I want, to watch you leave this land never to return? You truly believe that's what I desire from you? I'm like, yes, mindfucker. That's what I believe.
You've given her no other reason. Yes.
No other reason. Because he's been like trying to push her away, and which just causes her to assume like he doesn't really have these feelings, or they're one-sided, and he can't possibly feel this way about her because she also doesn't have a lot of self-esteem at this point because of how she's been treated. But then like Shara like hears them and comes into the room. She sees him and she's like, oh, it's you. And he's like, it's me. It's like, so Shara knows like in an instant what they are to each other, which then seems to like cause the tide to shift a little bit because the truth starts coming like out and they start actually being honest. And so he finally asks, right? Like, I'm like, about damn time. So he finally asks Soleil if she, like, he's like, do you not feel what's between us? I felt it the morning of the culling when I knew you were out there watching me. It's why I raced home that night. There was never a relationship between him and Bianca. It was just a publicity stunt, which made me think of like all the people, like celebrities that date for like movies or publicity. It was kind of funny. Forced by the council to try and distract people. He says he'll give Soleil whatever she wants, even if it means never seeing her again. And like, then, which is like, oh, but then finally, like, she's like, I don't know who moves like faster, like, and they kiss and they start getting a little handsy until he's like, wait, I want to wait until we're back at home, like at the manor together tomorrow. Like, that's when our lives will change. I want to be there when it happens. And so he gives her the Obsidian Sky ring that belonged to his sister in case she needs to escape. So I'm like, hold on a second. You just basically told me that we're like bound to each other. We're gonna go have sex tomorrow and like commit this. Here's a ring in case I need to escape. Okay.
I'm so worried that it wasn't gonna happen. Honestly,
I did
I'm
too.
like, if you say we're gonna wait till tomorrow, that's like a red flag. It's not gonna happen. It's like,
who's
no,
gonna die?
Just do it now. Just do it now. Who cares? Do it.
Even like the next, like Soleia's like, that was fast. Usually it takes longer than that. She's like, oh, we're gonna wait till tomorrow. I'm like, I wouldn't have waited.
Like, no.
So next morning, Shara goes back to her ship. She tells Soleil that she's gonna wait for her. Soleil goes to the manor where they finally have sex. More to come on that later. And that continues for the next few days, right? We get some good sex. We get some discussion about potentially leaving with Shara, and Bastian says, I like basically will follow you anywhere with Amy, but I have a few questions I have to get answered first. Like, where are all these supplies from the High Council coming? Who is Amy's father? It's really important that he knows for everyone's sake, is what he says. So, also alluding to that he knows more about Amy and that she's extremely important to the future of everything without telling us what that means, which very much feels like Thorne and some of the other characters in Broken and Queen when there's like this prophecy about Shara. It felt like they know things, but they don't tell her. And then he also admits there are things that he never told Soleia, which we quickly find out is that his sister is actually alive. He's been keeping her in the house. She's the crazy lady.
She's the crazy lady in the house.
She's the crazy lady in the house that tried to kill Soleia, tried to kill Bastian
him with ice fire.
Ice fire?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that only comes when David shows up with another soldier to take Bastian in for lying to the council and like committing treason.
Yeah, because he was supposed to kill her and he didn't do it.
Right. And he didn't do it. And that's why he has the house and all these things. So Bastian and Soleia get a few minutes to say goodbye. And he tells her, Miss Whippy is going to take Amy someplace safe. You need to go to the caves, to the Obsidian Sky, and figure out everything you can about Amy's father. Because his sister saw something there that she said could turn the tides and the peaks and change everything. So that sounds very similar to like what we know about Kravan and the histories that Shara ends up learning from the story, and that it would, if someone knew the truth, it would change everything. And then he also shares his sister's current crazy state is related to what she learned. So someone made her that way. She wasn't like that when she had Amy, which means she wasn't necessarily, I think at this point, we can assume she wasn't a bad person collecting powers as a blade on her own. Something happened to her. Yeah. And so Soleia is like, yes, I will go. Like, she feels, I'll do anything for you. I'll do anything for Amy. And I'll go to the Obsidian Sky, learn what I can. And then Bastian promises that I will be there for you when you need me. And he says, you have to tell the truth when you go there because there's a person who will know if you're lying. But don't divulge more than you need to, right? That truth seeker.
Yes. Yeah.
And all I thought of when he said this was, okay, glad it's not Shara, because Shara could not do that.
No.
Like, keep her mouth closed, right? But turns out that runs in the family because Soleia doesn't do a bang up job of that either. So, but like you have this like, but you have this like moment where it's like they're together finally, and then it's like
they get pulled apart.
Fucking David, like, ugh.
But really, it's fucking Oliver because he's the one who came and like found out like on behalf of the High Council that like his sister was still alive. Like, that's why he gets arrested, because he's like,
is it? Do what you're supposed to. Theory about this we'll talk about in a little bit.
We'll see.
We'll see.
So now it's cave time. So, Soleia's like, okay, I guess I'm going to go to this cave now and hope I don't die. Because the last couple times she's been up there, someone's tried to kill her, basically. But it's almost like they were expecting her, because now there's two people. There's this guy, Saint, and, I mean, at first she doesn't see the other person, Cassia, but they're waiting for her. And Saint asks her a bunch of questions, and then he turns to Cassia and he's like, is she telling the truth? And because she's the truth sayer, she knows. She's like, yeah, she's not telling us any lies, like she can come in. So they take her into the cave, and they give her a bedroom to stay in as well as food, because they also have like a summoner basically who can like bring things. And Soleia quickly trusts Cassia, which is going to become a problem later because she divulges way too much. And why hasn't she learned at this point, like, you should not trust anyone? Like, she just, like, automatically is trusting everybody, spilling all her secrets. But we learn here that Saint believes the killing of blades is a necessary evil, even though he's a blade. And this is really confusing for her, because she's like, why would you be okay with them killing us? Like, that doesn't make sense. But he says, it's a necessary evil, and that a common enemy is crucial if we want to unite a people. Which, I think K.A. Riley hits it like a nail on the head, basically, with like today's political climate, that like, everything going on. Like, we all apparently have a common enemy to unite all the people. Like, that's kind of the motto that is leading a lot of politicians these days, which I don't agree with either.
Same.
So it's, Soleia's like, just because that's what they're doing doesn't mean it's right. And K.A. Riley does a really good job of leaving those breadcrumbs for us to learn from in our lives. But additionally, here, Saint shares that without the public killing of the Blades, then the people would realize that the council is really just an organization of wealth hoarders. True. There would be daily riots. There would be like a lot more like kind of like mass murdering, probably. People being upset that the council isn't doing their job. And he talks about how the council always keeps the shipments coming. And even though like she's never seen it, like they've never really seen like ships coming and going, but like somehow all the supplies get in here. And you start to think like, is the Obsidian Sky involved in these shipments? Are they the ones providing it? Maybe. Mm-hmm. But yeah, basically like the High Council is just like a bunch of like fakes. And even like Bastian was like, yeah, the whole relationship with Bianca was completely false and fake to hide the truth, which is the High Council can't really do shit, you know. But basically, he's Saint seems to know a lot about everything. And earlier, Cassia, said that he was very resourceful in getting supplies for them. So it's like he knows a lot more than he's letting on as well. So the next day, Soleia is trying to ask a bunch of questions and ends up sharing too much. First, she starts by asking, she does not know how to be subtle, like at all.
No.
She's has no idea how to do this. She's like, so, do you know anything about Karis's lover? You know, random. But it's like, you just showed up and you're name dropping people. Like, that's obvious. So she's asking all these questions about Bastian's sister and the lover, and it does not go over well with any of them there because they're like, you should not be asking these questions. That is a person that she never should have been with, and he never lived here, and he is alive, but we just don't talk about him because he's bad. And she's like, oh, okay, duly noted. Okay, I won't ask any more questions. But she does.
Next question.
Next question. She asks about Soleia asks about the weapon that Bastian supposedly has. Because Cassia says, like, they're all looking for a weapon, and there's rumors that something does exist that could destroy Obsidian Sky and the High Council. And Soleia's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, there's no weapon at the manor. Like, there's nothing here. Like, what do you mean? Like, Karis is alive, but, you know, blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, wait, what? What do you mean she's alive? She is not supposed to be alive. Like, and if you want to live, you will not ask any more questions right now about Karis. Like, and I think that's when Soleia's like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that she was alive because this is a problem. Because then Kaisa immediately leaves and tells Saint the truth, who then confronts Soleia about Karis and seems to be relieved to learn that Karis can't talk to anyone, that like she's like pretty much like debilitated in every sense of the way. And even then they're like, you know too much, like, and Karis knows too much, and it's a good thing she's not telling anybody anything because that'd be a real problem. But now basically Soleia is on everybody's shit list and like on the watch list because they're like, I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know. And then, as if Soleia hadn't really learned her lesson here, she goes snooping around and she finds the hidden city called the Depths, where it looks like spring, summer, and honestly, my mind got blown. I had this weird moment where I was like, wait, what if this is like Kravan? Like, what if like all these things are like interconnected, and like she opens this doorway and she's really looking down on Kravan in some way, because it's like the way they describe it was like, you know, like a city, even like Kravan's kind of more like fucked up than that. But you know, who knows? That could be like an alternate universe kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But basically in this area, it looks like spring and summer inside of a mountain, which is basically Amy's power. Like she can like make the magic garden. And this is probably where all the food and supplies are coming from for the High Council. Like the Obsidian Sky makes it all, does it all, and like the shipments come from them, most likely. But Saint finds her there and he is furious, and he can tell that she's there even though she's using this like invisibility thing from the bracelet Thorn gave her. But he takes her to the supply room and he, you know, takes her with Kaisa and like shows her what happened to Karis. And he's like, this is what happens to people who disobey the obsidian sky and like don't follow our rules. And we find out that Saint is actually no saint at all. He's a monster. And he starts injecting Soleia with all of these random powers that, by the way, they have like blades and, or not blades, but like they have other people with powers just like in these like tubes, like hooked up in these pods where they can just like suck out their powers as they want and inject them into other people. But usually a blade can get rid of their power. Like if they don't want it, they can transfer it to someone else, which is what happens in Queen. But here, when you're injected with it, you don't have a choice. You're stuck with it. You can't get rid of it. And when you have too much power, you accumulate too much, you go crazy. And so that's essentially what happens to Karis. So basically, Saint is being an asshole and is injecting Soleia with all of these powers. And Kaisa's like, don't do this. Like, stop. Like, you should stop this because he's like, no. Or, wait. You can join me on this one because there's so much here to unpack.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So Cassie is like,
there's so
stop.
much.
Stop, don't do this. You don't want to do this. And he's like, no, I went to a seer. I know about the weapon. It's not what we think. It's a person. And he knows that Karis had a child who's a Fletch. And that child is very dangerous. And I'm like, she's a child. But like what? And he wants to kill the child. So then he continues to like, he ends up giving her, I think, 2 injections. One was a poisoner. I don't think it said what the second one was.
No, I don't think we knew.
I don't think we know. But it's very painful for her to like receive these. And he does this to any blade that really doesn't do what the Obsidian Sky wants until they're disoriented enough so he can send them on these suicide missions. Or to be publicly murdered in the calling. That's right.
Yeah.
He selects the blade to be killed every year. Did not see that coming.
Yeah, like he sets them all up. At first you think maybe it was Bastian who like sets people up because he's like, oh, they're criminals. Like there's actually like bad people. Like Jeremy Black, the first one that gets killed, he was a criminal supposedly. And like that's why it's okay. But no, yeah, it's like insane that Saint is actually setting all of this up. And which also I'm like, your name is Saint? Like
that's it's ironic.
Clearly not a saint. So yeah, it's literally insane that they think Amy is the weapon and she's going to bring them all down, which cue back to when Amy was like kind of psychotic and had the little like exorcist episode. She's like, I will bring them all down. I will ruin them. And you're like, oh shit. Yeah, maybe she is.
Shit.
But again,
but your
like,
child, how?
You're a kid. Like, don't kill this kid. Like, I don't know. You're just like, dude. But you're like, oh my God, Soleia, are you okay? Like, what is happening to you? Like, are you about to get sacrificed? Like, is there gonna be an extra choline this year? Like, ooh.
Well, and then Bella is like talking to her, like, you have to get up, you have to leave, right? And
like, let me help you. Let me
help you, right? And she can feel Bastian like getting closer to her. And he ends up showing up and she tries to get it because he had to leave with her and she won't. And then she ends up outside the cave next to Bastian and he destroys the entire cave with his powers. Even though at this point, Soleia doesn't think that Saint is dead. Like, she doesn't think that people died, but, like, the cave is somehow destroyed. And she feels relieved to see Bastian, right? Like, kind of like the other part of her is back. And then she tells him that the Obsidian Sky wants to kill Amy. And he doesn't seem to be surprised. Like, almost like he knew this was coming and he was, like, dreading this day. And he tells her the High Council let him go after questioning. But they're going to be tracking him. So destroying the cave is not going to go over well. And I'm like, no, probably not with anyone. So now they're going to be hunted by literally everyone in the peaks. And Miss Whippy and Amy were supposed to go meet Shara on the ship, but they didn't. So someone else must have them.
Yes.
And that's where the book ends.
Yes. You're like, so many questions.
So many questions. It's like massive cliffhanger. Like it felt like a bigger cliffhanger than even like the end of Thrall or the end of Broken. I was just like, wait, what? Yeah. And so I know we're thankfully just days away from the next book coming out. And we have a lot of theories we're going to get to in a few minutes because like there is so much to unpack in this book.
Yeah.
It's wild.
so much. Like I mean, I literally got like just my brain was starting to just like not compute anymore because I'm like, wait,
Like
what?
what?
Huh? So we'll come back to this.
We'll come back to it. So let's talk hot and steamy because we do get some hot and steamy. This felt like a three pepper book,
Hmm.
especially because I felt like Broken and Queen. We got a lot. We've called those four peppers. They were a lot more spicy scenes. So kind of like our first quasi spicy scene. I debated even putting this on the list, but I felt like we should because in chapter 25 he does like go into detail with Shara of like what he would do to her if he wasn't promised to someone else, which I was just like, I'm here for like the dirty talk.
Sure. Yeah. But like I want like a little bit of action too.
I
You
want there to
know?
be hands.
Yeah. Like he literally is like, "Do you want me?" He's like, "Are you as mad with desire right now as I am?" He's like, "Because when I go back to my quarters, I plan to stroke myself until I explode. And it will be your name that slips from my lips when it happens." And you're like, "Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
but like, do you have to go back to your quarters?
Yeah. Yeah."
I
It's
could
like, "But
help.
can you let me just come over?" And he's like, "If I get one more glance at your breasts, my resolve will desert me for good." And you're like, "Just
I would have just taken my shirt off.
rip them off. Just go. Just go for it." Yeah. So then we get to chapter 32, which is the blue room. And basically, she realizes that it is Bastian. And he pulls down his mask and he's just like, "You were wondering why I gave Bianca a similar necklace." He's like, "I had my reasons, sunshine." And she is just like, "Why are you wearing his shoes?" And she's freaking out. And quickly he starts touching her and he's like, "Now that you know it's me, will you still try to fight me off? Or will you allow me the pleasure of touching you just this once?" And then literally gets to a part where he's just like, "I wonder, would you resist me? Or like, do you want my tongue against your own?" And it later gets to a part where he literally is saying, "What would happen if I perhaps took you right now? I could turn you around, bend you over, tear those panties off you with one swipe of my finger, empty my cock inside you. I would be lying if I said it's not tempting." And he's just like talking about like all these dirty things he wants to do to her. And then he basically says like, "But I didn't fuck you. I could have." It's like, "If he weren't wearing that mask, I'd slap him again," is what she says. But instead, he literally pulls everything down and he wipes at his mouth and rises to his feet, pulling his mask back up and like sticks his fingers in his mouth. And it's just like, "Tastes great. Tastes great." And she's just like, "Oh my God." Because literally, he's like, any man can get a hard on, but he's like literally slipping his hands between her legs and pushing them apart. Goes down to his knees, yanking onward to the side, running his tongue over me greedily. And like, she tries not to moan, not to make a sound, but he full on is like taking her slowly with his hand, drawing his fingers in and out, and like doing small measured circles. And when she calls him Mr. Maddox, I think he literally starts to lose his mind because he's like, "Don't call me sir." And she's just like doing it to piss him off. And it's like a very, very sexy scene. And you're like, I want more. I want more. Whew. So that's our first, like,
Good.
okay,
Hot.
thank you very
Yes.
much. But not enough. Like, we don't get full climaxes. And I'm like, come on. Chapter 40, we get a little handsy in the end after admitting that they're tethered mates. So you're like, yes, please, let's fucking get to this. But then we get to 41, where they finally get to go down on each other in the shower and have sex in his bedroom. So literally, she's like, "You are perfection." His lips come together on her clit, sucking gently, and this time I know he won't stop until I am satiated. He won't walk away. And he literally is like, "Oh fuck, I've heard that tethered mates share pleasure in unimaginable ways, but I fear I'll explode just from eating your beautiful pussy." And she's just like talking about how tingly she is and how alive she is. And like literally she's saying, "Show me what you can do." And This is where I love a good shadow daddy. A long trail of black mist slips up my body, splits in two, stroking its way over both my nipples at once. And like another one goes around her neck and it's just holding her there while his tongue is driving her into the edge. And like, oh my God. I'm just like, I died. I was like,
Right?
stop, but don't stop.
But don't stop. It was worth it to get to this point.
It
But
was
also,
worth it.
what kind of powers do you have? You're
Yes.
supposed to
I'm
be
like,
a siphon.
yeah,
Are you a
again,
shadow daddy?
he's a shadow daddy. And he uses those shadows for good and evil.
Right? Which is like makes him even hotter as a shadow daddy.
It really does. And then, like, of course, she has to return the favor because she's a lady. And she's like, they always talk about, like, his length, his girth. And I'm like, where are we at? So, like,
Is it like a
how big?
Is it like
How big is this? Is it an eggplant? What do we have in here? What's for dinner? Um, but he is very excited and loves all of this. And then chapter 42, we have references of them having sex multiple times again. We don't get a lot of details. All we get is like they do go back into the blue room and like finish what they started, which you're like,
thank God.
okay, thank you for doing that. I loved this. I wanted more. I always want more. But seriously, the shadow daddy part was like a killer for me. I was like, can
Right?
we use a little bit more of that in the future? Like,
Well, and I think if we think about Thrall was like a three pepper book, and I feel like we got like the same amount of like hot and steamy scenes. So, and then we got to Broken, which was like four, and same thing with Queen. So I'm wondering if like Chain will also be like spicier because now they're together, they're tethered, they're not going to be able to keep their hands off each other.
no, they definitely
So
will.
I'm here for that.
Or their shadows.
Oh God.
But again, what other powers does he have?
Yeah. Well, that is perfect time to theorize because we got a lot of theories and a lot of questions, and I'm sure Kay Riley is going to find all of this very hilarious.
Yeah, she
So,
will. She's gonna laugh at us.
first one, why could Soleia feel her bond to Bastian so quickly? I don't feel like we saw that with Shara and Thorn. And I could be
They had
overthinking
like a
this.
moment where they like looked at each other's eyes and she like could feel him in the room, but yeah, it wasn't as
It
quick.
didn't feel as quick or as like strong for some reason.
Mm,
And I could be
yeah.
overthinking this because like now I know like how the bond manifests in the world. So it's possible that if I reread Thrall again, like knowing all of this, that I might be like, oh, and see some things too. But I do feel like it's stronger. And I wonder if that has implications later in the book. So, who is Amy's father? We know it's not someone who lived in the caves. So I feel like it's not a member of the Obsidian Sky.
Yeah.
What if it's a High Council member?
I think so.
Okay. What if it's Evan Graves? That's Bianca's dad. We know he's a high-ranking council member. He's Bianca's father, and he's likely the person who curated the relationship between Bianca and Bastian. And there is a point in the book where his name is dropped. Like Evan Graves sent, I think, Darth and the soldier to go get Bastian. So, if the High Council is using the Obsidian Sky for their supplies, it would make sense that he would go to the depths at some times and he might have met Karis there, and it would also be someone that she shouldn't have been with.
Oh my God. I never even thought of that. I think you're onto something.
I think we'll find out soon.
Okay.
That's my thought. Okay, so then who
Yeah.
has Amy? So keep on the crazy train with me.
Okay.
So I think the High Council has Amy because Bianca only recently met Amy. We know that. And that night after she met her, Oliver showed up. Right? And so I wonder if Bianca figured out who Amy was and shared that information with her father. And then they ended up kidnapping Miss Whippy and Amy. And that's
Like
why
Bianca kidnapped her?
Bianca or her father, like that kind of combination. Because like when Darth comes and the soldier come to go get him in for questioning, they say it's because they know he's been lying about his sister. And I think that was all a ruse for them to get Amy out of the house and to take, because I think they knew that Bastian would send her somewhere. So
Yeah.
Bianca also, I think, could have been the person that was used as bait to get Amy and Miss Whippy to go along with them because they would likely trust her. Like at this point, Miss Whippy thinks that she's going to be marrying Bastian. Amy really likes Bianca, right? They don't, it's unclear in the book if they realize what's going on with Soleia and Bastian at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they
So
do. But I think
I
that's a
don't,
good idea. I think possibly Bianca did do it. Like she was in on it and took him.
yes.
But also, like, what powers does Amy have? Like, why is she deemed so dangerous to everybody? Like, they keep talking about her being a weapon, but very little information about what she can do. So it's like, is she a weapon because she can like manipulate the elements in this way? Or, I mean, is she like a ticking time bomb? Like, we know Bastian says that she has potential to do horrible things or very good things based on what she chooses to do. But we don't get like much more information on what her powers really are. So maybe she has all the powers. Who knows?
Wouldn't that be crazy? Like,
That'd be so crazy.
that's what I want. Well, like, I wonder if she is power.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, her whole conception and like birth, like gestation period was like insane. They're like, it was a week.
Right.
So, like, that doesn't happen.
It doesn't
That's
happen.
abnormal.
Correct.
Yeah. But then, like, why also does the High Council let Bastian go so easily? Like, how was he interrogated and the council planned to track his movements, but it doesn't seem like a big consequence. They're like, okay, we're going to watch you. It's like, I think they're trying to get like a trap, honestly. Like, why are they not more mad at him about like lying about everything about killing his sister? Like, again, like the arrest was just a ruse to kidnap Amy, or to get something else from him in the future. Like, is it possible he has to make like a deal with them for his freedom, but he hasn't told Sully about it? Like, he's just able to get there way too quickly that I'm like,
Yes.
suspicious.
Yes. Trust no one.
Trust no one. And what powers does he have? He's
Right?
a siphon. I don't know. I think he's a blade. I think, what if he's like a blade combo? Blade siphon
What if he's
combo.
some new thing that she hasn't even told us about that exists?
Yeah, there's like a whole like world of like things we don't know. What if he's not even like a human? Because there's like elves and like orcs and all this stuff. Like he's just like, I don't know. He can be morphed into look like one. But that wouldn't make sense with the tether. I don't know. But basically, there's a lot more that he can do. And like, he talks about how he can break the world if he chooses to, and it would shatter its foundations to protect her. And it's like, are you a god?
Right? Like, what are you?
Yeah. He's keeping secrets. He's a shadow
Keeping
daddy.
secrets. Shadow Dad. Oh, God. I love it.
Love it.
Okay. So, how many lands exist in this world? We know there are more of them. But what was interesting is we get a map of the peaks. We don't get a map of the peaks in relationship to Kravan. Why
Yeah,
don't
how far
we?
are they? Yeah.
Where are the other places, Kay Riley? Why aren't you telling us? Is this intentional? What are you planning? What are you planning? We need more. Also,
Anymore.
back up to crazy land with me. Where is Thorn? Does anyone? Where is Thorn?
Where
It's
is
odd
he?
that he's not with Shara. After everything they've been through, I know they've supposedly been on this journey for 2 years, but everything they've been through, they're not together. It makes me suspicious. Like,
And are we
it
gonna
could
get
be
a
nothing,
book? Are we gonna get a book about like what happens in those 2 years?
right?
Because remember he also said like they sent that
20
same like
packages.
like fingertip things to other people, and it's like, where are they?
Where? And if there's 20, does that mean there's 20 lands? Okay, Riley, I need to know. I just don't trust that Thorn's gone. And that goes back to my crazy idea that, like, this isn't really Shara. Which could be, like, another thing, that it's not really Shara. And, like, whoever's posing as Shara is the one that kidnapped Amy. I don't know.
Oh.
Because, like, one of the things that we know is that when you're away from your tethered mate, like, it is really emotionally hard. And Shara
And she doesn't
mentions,
seem
like,
very distraught.
she does not. She says she misses him and she can't wait to get back to him, but she does not feel like that emotional pain that I expected her to feel that we saw in book 2 and book 3 with her. I could be crazy town, but that's what I think. There's something going on here.
Yeah.
We will find out soon.
It's very, very quick to be like, Shara's here, yay! And it's like, how do you know?
How do you know? You've never seen her.
Yeah, it's like, do a secret hand signal, or I don't know. Tell me
Right?
something. But she did know that, like, or Shara did know that their father was a hunter and now their new last name is Hunter. Like, that was
Yeah,
information that we knew.
but wouldn't anyone know that now? Because even Bastian knew about everything that Shara had done in Kravan.
Questions. Lots of
Questions.
questions.
All right. So on to things
Let's
that make
get
my
to
heart
the,
race.
yeah, yeah.
So
What didn't make my heart race? Definitely the sex scenes made my heart race.
right? I mean, this enemies to lovers trope between Bastian and Soleia, it was like so well done. Like the banter was
Yeah.
phenomenal. Like they'd push each other's buttons. They would like feel his connection, but they like wanted to wait until the other person would like say it first. So it was just like it was so well done. So
Yeah.
well done.
Kind of
Every
drove me
single
nuts.
it drove me nuts like in the best way possible. Like if it would have had
Yeah.
zero payoff, it would have pissed me off. But we got payoff, so I
Mm.
was like, yes.
I got payoff. Yeah.
Every single training encounter between the two of them, like he's pushing her to learn how to protect herself, which is definitely important for like future books, I assume, but also because of like what Oliver did to her and threatened to do to her. But like just I mean, I just think it's hot. And then, I mean, you know that we love a good shower sex scene. So like that was
Yes.
a heart racing moment.
How
We're
funny
always
was
here
it?
for the shower sex.
And she's like using her powers to like quickly like play like hide and go seek from him in a way,
Yes.
where she's like, I'm running over here, you can't catch me if you can, like ha ha ha. And I'm like, that's a cute, like sexy way to show powers.
Right?
Like, in addition to obviously like the shadows. But it was just like that was a fun moment and I loved
It
it.
was. Well, and it was so different than I think what we saw with like Shara and Thorne's like first moments together, like intimate moments. So like I just it felt like very much them and their characters, which I loved. Um and then basically like the entire section of the book from when like Darth or David shows up with a soldier to come to arrest Bastion until the very end. Like there were parts where like it was we knew that she was going to go to the cave at some point and like go to the obsidian sky. Like that was so breadcrumbed. But then there's like I did not see her getting injected with powers by Saint. I did not see the obsidian sky choosing the blades to die in the calling. I didn't see
Yeah.
Bastion's ability to bring down a fucking cave.
Yeah.
Like
Like what? It like became like this completely out of body experience. Like you think you know the story and you think you know the world, and it's like surprise. There's like a whole other element to it that like you had no idea was coming, and you're like, is this a sci-fi book now? Like where? What?
like
How did
what?
this happen? But I like it.
I know. My Apple Watch is like, your heart rate is elevated. I'm
Yeah,
like,
you're like,
no
oh my
shit,
God.
it's in the book.
Yeah. And then honestly, there's very little in here that I didn't love about the series. So it's phenomenal storytelling. It compels almost every emotion out of you. But if we have to point out a few things that we just like didn't like, I'd say everything about Oliver and the hearse. Like we hate them. Like I know they were important plot in the role, like everything, but just the way they treated her since a child was like just completely infuriating. That I was just like, oh my God, these people, like, ugh.
Ugh. I
And
know.
then again, like we want to know where Thorn is. So suspicious of his absence, getting teased by seeing Shara in the book for a couple of chapters, but only hear about Thorn. We want Thorn. Where is Thorn? Hashtag where is Thorn? Like,
Yes.
I want to know where
He's
he
the
is.
original Shadow Daddy. Where is Thorn?
Yes, right? It's like, oh my gosh. But
We need him.
still loved it all. There needs to be a book in between. I feel like I'm going to put this in the universe. Like, I need to know what happened in those 2 years. And where
Wait,
is
that's
he?
not been 2 years. How do we know
No,
it's
but
been
they
2
said it.
years? No, Shara said it. If she's not
Oh
Shara.
yeah, and if that's not really Shara. Oof.
Mm-hmm. Okay, just throwing it all out there. Okay, so what's next? If you enjoyed this book, we also think you're going to love the next book in the Thrall series. They just keep getting better and better. That book comes out on May 30th. We look forward to continuing Soleia and Sebastian's journey with you. Our episode on Chained will be out on June 18th. We also would recommend the From Blood and Ash series, which has a similar age girl to Soleia, who's also been treated poorly her entire life and starts to learn that everything she's been told is a lie. So that's like another great series if you like seeing young women come into their own and learn that everyone's been lying to them in the government
Yeah.
or
But
the
you have to
ruling
fight for
party.
yourself.
Yes.
And honestly, all of these books have made me want to take like more self-defense classes because I'm like, not that I wouldn't mind if Bastian came and like jumped at me and was like, fight me. I'd be like, but I'm like, wait, no, but we should really take some more self-defense classes because
Yes.
I mean, you would hope it's a sexy shadow daddy, but it likely isn't going to be. So you should be able to defend yourself. So we'll find something like that. But now, join us for our next episode where we're going to dive into a completely different world. We're going to go into contemporary romance and we are going to discuss Flirting Lessons by Jasmine Gilroy. So that'll be so much fun. Can't wait. Happy reading, everybody.
Happy reading. Thanks for listening to Late Night Reads. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Late Night Reads Podcast. And check out latenightreads.com for even more information about all the books we're reading. If you loved today's episode, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. And share the show with your fellow book lovers.